The spoken word carries the seed of manifestation. Every word we utter is a decree, a command issued to the unseen forces that shape our lives. When I say I am rich, the universe rearranges itself to make it true. The invisible law listens, and the vibration of my speech attracts its likeness, just as a magnet draws iron filings. Riches do not come from effort alone. They are summoned by alignment with the unseen law of supply. My word is my wand, and with it I write my fortune upon the canvas of life. Poverty is not real substance. It is a shadow, the absence of recognition of infinite supply. Wealth is the natural state, ever present, waiting only for my acknowledgement. When I spoke the word of abundance, I shifted my inner pattern, and everything outside obeyed. The outer is but the picture, the inner word is the film that creates it. One spoken word of faith outweighs years of striving, for faith is the key that unlocks the treasure chest of heaven. I once believed riches were far off, tied to effort, struggle, and chance. But when I spoke, I am ultra-rich, a new law began to operate. I saw that my wealth was already established in the invisible, waiting for my claim. As I declared it, doors opened that were hidden before. People, opportunities, and ideas aligned as if summoned by a higher hand. The spoken word had gone forth like a seed and returned multiplied, pressed down, shaken together, running over. Every word has a vibration, and every vibration calls forth its twin. Words of lack summon lack. Words of doubt summon delay. But words of wealth summon wealth. And words of joy summon joy. The tongue is the rudder that steers the ship of life. Many drift because they let careless words direct them into barren waters. But the moment one speaks deliberately, with faith and certainty, the ship turns toward the harbor of abundance. To speak wealth is to affirm truth, for lack is the lie. The universe was born rich, overflowing with gold in the earth, pearls in the sea, harvest in the field. Supply is endless, as boundless as the stars. When I say, I am ultra-rich, I align myself with the eternal current of increase. My word pierces the veil of appearances and calls forth the hidden good that was mine from the beginning. The world echoes my declaration. The law cannot deny me what I claim in faith. When I spoke, wealth hurried to meet me. It clothed itself as money, as opportunities, as gifts, as sudden favor. Every form is only the shadow of the word I spoke. To say, I am ultra-rich, is to strike the tuning fork of infinite abundance, and all things rush to harmonize with that sound. The spoken word is a decree that shapes destiny. When I speak, I send out a vibration that echoes through the unseen, stirring forces that must respond. Every word uttered carries a power beyond the mind's comprehension, for words are not idle sounds but living seeds. They contain within them the pattern of the future, and once spoken, they begin to draw circumstances, events, and people to fulfill what was declared. Words never fall to the ground empty, they are clothed with substance and return multiplied. To speak is to command, to decree, to call forth what already exists in the invisible into visible form. The ancient law is precise: whatsoever a man declares, believing, he shall receive. Many live unaware of this law, scattering words of doubt, complaint, and fear, and then marvel when those very conditions appear in their lives. They do not see that the words they have spoken were the blueprint, and life merely built upon that design. The tongue is the rudder of destiny. A careless phrase can direct the ship into storms, while a deliberate word of power steers it into safe harbors overflowing with supply. Nothing is more powerful than the word spoken with conviction, for it is the bridge between thought and manifestation. From the beginning, creation itself was spoken. The world was not carved by hands but called forth by sound, by the decree of the word. That same creative principle flows through every individual. The voice carries authority because it aligns with universal law. When I speak, I am not simply expressing an idea, I am activating the law of vibration and attraction. Words of health draw health, words of peace draw peace, words of wealth draw wealth. It cannot be otherwise, for the law is impersonal, exact, and unfailing. The decree goes forth and must return in its likeness. When one speaks with faith, every unseen force rushes to obey. Invisible messengers are set into motion, arranging details that the mind could not plan. Opportunities appear, doors swing open, solutions arrive, often in ways too marvelous to imagine. The decree sets this into action, for the word contains the command. The decree does not plead, it knows. To decree is to affirm as already established. The spoken word does not ask, will it come? But declares, it is so. And the universe echoes back the truth of that declaration. Every life is shaped not by outer conditions but by inner words released into speech. Some wonder why struggles repeat, why lack persists, why doors remain closed. They do not see that their constant repetition of lack, fear, or failure has sealed those experiences into form. To say, I cannot afford, is to write poverty into the script of life. To declare, nothing ever works out for me, is to bind oneself to disappointment. But the moment one changes the decree, the picture begins to change. When words shift from complaint to affirmation, from fear to faith, a new current is set in motion, and destiny begins to realign. The spoken word must be chosen with care, for it is a creative instrument. Every phrase is a brushstroke on the canvas of life. Speak of limitation, and the canvas fills with barriers. Speak of freedom, and the way opens wide. Words are not small, they are vast forces condensed into sound. They are lightning bolts of power, striking into the invisible and forming patterns that later materialize. To speak with awareness is to wield the most powerful tool given to humanity. To speak without awareness is to surrender destiny to chance, but in truth, there is no chance, only law responding to the decree. One word spoken in authority outweighs 1,000 thoughts. Thought unspoken is seed stored. It may or may not take root, but the moment it is spoken, it is planted, and the soil of the unseen goes to work. Just as a farmer sows in expectation of harvest, so does every word carry within it a harvest of like kind. The harvest may not appear immediately, but it is certain. Time is merely the process of unfolding what has already been planted. The wise one watches their words, knowing each one carries destiny within it. Speech is not to be used idly, for idle words are not idle in effect. They, too, go forth and create. The law knows no jest. To say even in play, words of destruction or loss is to plant seeds of the same. The soil of the unseen does not discriminate between serious and casual. It receives whatever is given. Therefore, to decree is to take responsibility for one's life, to recognize that no condition is stronger than the words spoken with authority. Outer facts may seem immovable, but the decree spoken in faith reshapes those facts into alignment with truth. When I decree, I claim dominion. I rise above appearances and declare what is eternally real. Though the senses may contradict, the spoken word pierces through illusion and draws the unseen reality into manifestation. To decree abundance in the face of lack is to align with infinite supply. To decree health in the face of illness is to align with wholeness. To decree joy in the midst of sorrow is to align with the eternal stream of life. The decree lifts consciousness out of bondage to appearances and into freedom, and as consciousness rises, outer life follows. This is the great secret hidden in plain sight, that destiny is not written by fate but by the word. Those who guard their speech guard their lives, and those who decree with certainty shape their future with precision. Each spoken word is a brush dipped in the colors of eternity, painting scenes that must one day be lived. Nothing is withheld from the one who decrees in faith, for the word is the command, and the law is the servant. The decree goes forth and destiny is written in sound. Poverty is illusion, abundance is the natural state. What appears as lack is not substance but shadow, a mirage cast by fear, doubt, and disbelief in the infinite source. In truth, the universe is overflowing with riches beyond measure. Gold lies hidden in the earth, pearls sleep within the seas, harvests wave in the fields, and ideas abound in the realm of mind. Abundance surrounds every soul, waiting only for recognition. Poverty arises when the eyes of the spirit are veiled, when one accepts the appearance of lack as reality, rather than seeing through it to the eternal supply behind it. To dwell on scarcity is to bind oneself to it, for what the mind accepts, life reproduces. To lift the gaze and declare abundance is to break the illusion. For the truth of plenty floods in where the lie of lack once stood. Every being is heir to infinite supply, yet many live as though exiled from their inheritance. They toil, they strive, they grasp, believing that wealth is rare and must be seized from others. They do not see that supply is endless, that the storehouses of the universe can never be emptied. The illusion of poverty has no root in truth. It is a false belief hardened into appearance by continual thought and speech. The natural state is richness, flowing freely, multiplying endlessly, manifesting in countless forms. When one awakens to this, the spell of lack dissolves, and abundance rushes in like a river long dammed but suddenly released. The natural order of life is increase. The seed in the ground pushes upward. The vine bears fruit, the tree multiplies its branches, the ocean teems with fish, the stars themselves are without number. Nature does not display lack, it displays overflow. To walk in harmony with life is to walk in abundance. Scarcity comes not from life but from false belief, from blocking the current with fear and doubt. When the inner belief changes, when one recognizes that abundance is not something to strive for but something to accept, the flow resumes. The universe is never poor. It is endlessly rich, and those who align with its truth draw riches without struggle. Poverty feeds on attention. The more one looks at it, the stronger it seems. To talk of lack, to dwell on insufficiency, to rehearse stories of not enough, is to give shadow the strength of substance. Yet it is a phantom, a veil, a fleeting mist. The moment the word of abundance is spoken in faith, the mist clears and supply appears. What once seemed scarce becomes plentiful. Opportunities arise where none were seen. Money comes in unexpected channels. The outer world rearranges itself, for it was never solid but malleable, responding always to the inner recognition of truth. The mind trained to see abundance sees it everywhere. The world becomes a storehouse of supply, every encounter a doorway, every situation a chance for increase. The one who sees through the illusion of poverty is no longer bound by outer appearances. A barren field becomes a harvest, for they know the soil is rich with potential. An empty hand becomes a hand of wealth, for they know ideas flow ceaselessly from the infinite. Abundance is never absent, it is only unrecognized. The recognition is the key that unlocks it. And once unlocked, it flows ceaselessly, for it was there all along. The belief in poverty is a habit passed from mind to mind, from generation to generation, but it has no foundation in truth. It is a tale repeated so often that it appears real, but like all illusions, it dissolves when exposed to the light of truth. The child plays freely, unburdened by fear of supply, for the child instinctively trusts the universe. Only later, taught by fearful voices, does the belief in lack take hold. But what has been learned can be unlearned. The mind can be renewed, and with renewal comes the restoration of abundance. The natural state reasserts itself, sweeping away the falsehood of poverty. Life is a reflection of consciousness, and consciousness filled with lack produces want, while consciousness filled with plenty produces wealth. The world outside mirrors the world inside. To shift the inner vision from scarcity to abundance is to shift the entire experience of life. Outer riches flow naturally to the one who inwardly knows, I live in an abundant universe. I am provided for. Supply is endless and flows to me now. Such recognition dissolves fear, and without fear the channels of supply open wide. The natural law rushes to confirm what is believed, and abundance becomes visible. Every resource, every opportunity, every form of wealth is already present in the unseen. It does not need to be created, it waits to be claimed. The one who understands that poverty is illusion no longer begs or struggles, but claims their rightful inheritance with calm authority. They know that to demand abundance is not arrogance but alignment, for abundance was theirs from the beginning. The illusion of lack is like a dream that dissolves upon waking, and the soul that awakens walks in the sunlight of plenty, free from fear, free from struggle, free from the chains of want. To live in the truth of abundance is to rest in certainty, for the supply is not dependent on outer conditions. It does not waver with markets, with economies, with chance events. It flows from the infinite, steady, eternal, unchanging. Poverty rises and falls with appearances, but abundance is eternal law. Those who root themselves in appearances rise and fall with them, tossed by every wave of change. Those who root themselves in truth stand firm, drawing supply from the inexhaustible source. The illusion of lack may swirl around them, but they remain untouched, for they know the deeper reality. Poverty cannot bind the one who knows abundance as the natural state. Illusion has no power over truth. The outer picture may seem bleak, but the awakened soul declares, "Abundance is mine now," and the law hastens to obey. Step by step, supply appears, channels open. Life overflows with good. It was never absent, it was waiting for recognition. Poverty vanishes as a dream upon waking, and abundance shines as the eternal daylight that was always there. Words of wealth summon wealth, words of lack summon lack. Every word is a seed sown into the fertile soil of the unseen, and that soil does not question what has been planted. It does not judge. It does not discriminate, it simply brings forth according to the seed received. When I speak words of wealth, I am planting riches into the garden of life, and the harvest will be of the same nature. When I speak words of lack, I sow the seeds of want, and the harvest too will reflect what was spoken. The harvest always comes, for the law is exact and unfailing. The tongue holds the power to bless or bind, to call forth increase or to perpetuate emptiness. Every utterance carries within it a vibration, and vibrations call to themselves their likeness, drawing into manifestation that which matches their sound. The power of words is not a matter of superstition but of law. Just as a note struck on one instrument causes the same note to vibrate in another, so does the spoken word call forth its corresponding experience. To declare, "I am prosperous," is to strike the chord of prosperity, and the world begins to vibrate with opportunities, ideas, and resources that match that tone. To declare, "I cannot afford," is to strike the chord of limitation, and life responds by withholding supply, for it can only mirror what has been spoken into it. Words are not empty, they are creative commands that mold the substance of life into form. The wealth one seeks is already present in the invisible, waiting to be summoned into view. It awaits the word that calls it forth. The declaration is the key that unlocks the invisible vaults of supply. Many strive without speaking rightly, and so their labor yields little. They sweat, they struggle, they toil, yet their words cancel their efforts. They say, "It is too hard," and life becomes hard. They say, "I will never have enough," and life echoes back, "Never enough." Yet when the same person turns their speech, declaring with conviction, "Everything I need flows to me," the struggle ends, and supply begins to appear in effortless ways. Words of wealth summon wealth, for they harmonize with the ever-present abundance that surrounds all. Every phrase uttered is a decree sent forth. Words of joy summon joy, words of peace summon peace, words of freedom summon freedom. And in the same way, words of wealth summon wealth. The decree must be consistent, for double speech confuses the law. To say in one breath, "I am rich," and in another breath, "I am poor," is to sow both weed and weeds, and the garden grows tangled. But the steady decree of wealth spoken in faith clears away the weeds of lack and establishes a pure harvest. Life becomes an echo chamber of one's own speech, faithfully returning what was first released. Words carry life or death to dreams, to health, to fortune. The wise guard their tongue as one guards treasure, for each phrase holds power. The one who habitually speaks of riches, even in small matters, trains the law to respond with increase. They do not say, "I cannot," but instead, "I can and I will." They do not say, "I lack," but instead, "I have." In time, the outer picture conforms to these inner decrees, for speech is creative and cannot return void. The universe bends to the sound of the word, reshaping itself to fulfill the decree. Consider how swiftly words of fear manifest. Speak of illness, and symptoms often follow. Speak of trouble, and difficulties seem to multiply. The same law applies to wealth. Speak of riches, and the channels of riches open. Speak of opportunities, and opportunities arrive. Life listens intently to the voice and obeys. Words are not mere expressions but blueprints, outlines of what will be built in experience. The law of vibration ensures that the spoken word attracts its match, summoning circumstances, people, and events that align with what was spoken. The one who seeks wealth must therefore speak it continually, not as wishful thinking but as present reality. To say, "I am wealthy now," is to align with the truth of abundance, which is always available. The law does not respond to begging or pleading, but to certainty. When the word is spoken with conviction, without doubt, it carries weight and authority. That authority is recognized by the unseen forces, and supply hurries to answer. Words of wealth summon wealth, because they strike the universal chord of increase, and increase is the natural flow of life. Speech must be guarded even in jest, for the law does not discern humor. To joke of poverty, to laugh about lack, to say lightly, "I am broke," is to sow seeds of want all the same. The soil of the unseen does not pause to ask if the word was serious or not. It only knows to bring forth after its kind. Therefore, every utterance should be chosen carefully, for careless speech produces careless results. To live deliberately is to speak deliberately, planting only the seeds one desires to see grow. When words of wealth are spoken with gratitude, their power is magnified. Gratitude seals the decree with faith, for gratitude says, "It is already mine." The thankful word vibrates at the frequency of possession, not longing. To say, "I am grateful for the riches flowing to me now," is to affirm that wealth is already present, and the law hastens to fulfill that affirmation. Gratitude draws more to be grateful for, just as complaint draws more to complain about. Words are magnets, and the attitude with which they are spoken determines the strength of their pull. The transformation of life begins with the transformation of speech. The lips trained to declare abundance reshape the entire course of destiny. Wealth does not first appear in the bank but in the mouth. Riches are summoned by the steady repetition of truth, spoken aloud until the vibration saturates consciousness and calls forth its likeness in form. To speak wealth is to set the law of supply into motion. To continue speaking it without wavering is to guarantee its appearance. Words of wealth summon wealth unfailingly, for they are one with the eternal law of increase that governs all creation. The inner word creates the outer picture. Life is not shaped by what happens outside, but by what is continuously spoken within. Every thought clothed in words becomes a decree that paints itself upon the canvas of reality. The unseen world within is the architect, and the visible world without is the building. What I whisper in the secret chambers of my mind is heard by the law of creation, and that law sets about constructing the outer form that mirrors the inner decree. The world may appear solid and immovable, but it is pliable substance molded by inner speech. To change the picture, I must first change the word that is spoken within. For the outer cannot resist the power of the inner word once it is spoken with faith and conviction. When the inner word is filled with lack, the picture reflects want. When the inner word is filled with doubt, the picture reflects delay. When the inner word is filled with fear, the picture reflects bondage. Yet when the inner word is filled with abundance, the picture reflects wealth. When the inner word is filled with faith, the picture reflects fulfillment. When the inner word is filled with joy, the picture reflects harmony. The inner word is the seed, and the outer picture is the harvest. The field of life does not question the seed, it simply reproduces what has been planted. To dwell on negative speech within is to sow weeds. To dwell on truth and abundance within is to sow flowers and fruits. The harvest is always faithful to the seed. Many attempt to change their lives by altering the outer picture, striving to rearrange circumstances, people, and conditions. Yet they discover the picture reforms itself in the same pattern, for the inner word remains unchanged. They repaint the surface, but the underlying image pushes through again. The only true transformation comes when the inner word is renewed. When the inner word shifts, the outer picture must follow. It cannot do otherwise, for the inner is the cause, and the outer is the effect. To labor only on effects is to chase shadows, but to work with the inner word is to strike at the root. ensuring that the new picture will appear with certainty. The inner word is spoken not only in conscious thought, but in the deep convictions of the heart. A man may say outwardly, "I am rich," but if the inner word whispers, "I am poor," then poverty will be the picture. The inner word carries more weight than the outer declaration when the two are in conflict. Yet the outer spoken word, when repeated with faith and determination, can transform the inner word. Every affirmation, every decree, spoken aloud with belief, begins to impress the subconscious mind until it takes hold and becomes the inner conviction. Then the inner and outer words harmonize, and the picture must change. Life is a mirror reflecting back the hidden word of the soul. If discord appears, it is because discord has been spoken within. If harmony appears, it is because harmony has been spoken within. Nothing appears by chance. Everything is summoned by the vibration of the inner decree. To gaze upon the outer world is to gaze upon a picture painted by one's own inner words. The picture may please or displease, but it is always faithful. The law cannot be deceived. It does not bring forth what one wishes vaguely, but what one speaks inwardly with conviction. The picture never lies, for it is the perfect reflection of the inner word. To govern the inner word is to govern life. This requires vigilance, for thoughts arise unbidden, and the tongue of the inner voice is quick to speak, yet mastery comes with awareness. By watching the inner word, I see the seeds I am planting. By correcting it immediately when it strays into lack or fear, I prevent weeds from taking root. By reaffirming truth, abundance, and joy, I strengthen the soil with fertile seed. Over time, the inner word becomes habitually aligned with truth, and the outer picture blossoms into beauty and wealth. What once seemed a struggle becomes effortless, for the law is working continually, bringing forth whatever has been sown. The inner word is like the script of a play, and the outer world is the stage upon which it is acted. Actors, props, and scenes assemble themselves according to the script. If the script says sorrow, sorrow appears. If the script says joy, joy appears. The actors themselves are not the source, they merely play the roles written for them. To change the play, the script must be rewritten, and that script is the inner word. Life obeys the script without question, for it is bound by law to mirror the inner decree. By rewriting the inner word, I rewrite the entire play of life. Some believe their circumstances are fixed, determined by fate, heredity, or chance. Yet the law of the inner word reveals that nothing is fixed except by continual decree. A condition persists only because it is continually spoken within, either consciously or unconsciously. The moment the inner word changes, the process of transformation begins. The picture may linger for a time, as the old word fades and the new word takes root, but the change is inevitable. The new picture will appear as surely as dawn follows night. Fate is not a master but a servant of the inner word. The great secret is that the inner word always precedes the outer picture. What I long for will never appear until I speak it within. Desire without decree is a dream, but desire spoken inwardly with conviction is the beginning of creation. The inner word clothes the desire with form, and that form begins to press itself outward until it appears in visible reality. To guard the inner word is to guard the creative process itself. To speak deliberately within is to command destiny. Every picture of life is but the reflection of words once spoken in the silence of the soul. The inner word creates the outer picture with exactness, never erring, never delaying except as belief delays it. The law cannot fail. It only waits for a clear decree. When the inner word is confused, the picture is confused. When the inner word is steadfast, the picture is steady. When the inner word is filled with power, the picture is glorious. The responsibility rests with the one who speaks within, for that speech is the brush that paints the masterpiece of life. Faith-filled speech unlocks infinite supply. The words spoken with faith carry a power far greater than ordinary speech. They are not mere sounds but living decrees. Clothed with the authority of conviction, vibrating with certainty that compels the unseen to respond. Faith is the element that transforms words from idle talk into commands of creation. A word spoken without belief falls to the ground like a seed scattered on stone. But a word spoken with faith takes root in the fertile soil of the unseen and brings forth a harvest in due season. Faith is the substance that gives life to the spoken decree, the invisible energy that unlocks doors, opens channels, and summons supply from unexpected places. The universe is a storehouse of abundance, infinite and inexhaustible. Yet it remains unopened until faith turns the key. Speech without faith rattles against the door but cannot move it. Speech with faith inserts the key, turns it with ease, and the treasures pour forth. Faith-filled speech does not ask timidly. It does not plead, it does not wonder if it will be answered. It speaks as one who already possesses, who already knows, who already stands in ownership of the unseen riches. The universe cannot resist such authority, for the law is bound to respond to faith. When the word is spoken in faith, it goes forth as a decree, not as a question. To say, "I will be rich someday," is to postpone and weaken the command, but to say, "I am rich now," in faith is to set the law into immediate motion. Faith speaks in the present, for it knows the unseen is already real. The speech of faith does not wait for appearances to confirm, it declares the reality first, and appearances rearrange themselves in obedience to the declaration. The supply was always present, but faith-filled speech is what unlocks it and calls it into visible form. Fear-filled speech locks the door as surely as faith-filled speech opens it. To say, "I never have enough," is to decree lack with authority, and the law obeys, producing shortage in the outer world. To say, "It is too difficult," is to bind oneself to difficulty, for the word spoken with conviction becomes a command to life. Faith is the dividing line between lack and plenty, bondage and freedom, delay and fulfillment. Without faith, words stumble. With faith, words fly like arrows to their target, never missing the mark. Faith is not struggle, it is calm assurance. The one who speaks with faith does not strain, does not force, does not beg. They speak with quiet certainty, knowing the law has heard and the supply is already flowing. Faith is rest in the unseen, confidence in the invisible. Words clothed in the Spirit become unstoppable, for they harmonize with the eternal truth that abundance is limitless and ever-present. The universe responds as though compelled, because faith is the vibration of alignment with reality. Every miracle begins with faith-filled speech. The walls of impossibility may stand tall, but one decree spoken in faith sends them crumbling. Conditions may seem immovable, but the word spoken with unwavering conviction reshapes them with ease. What logic cannot achieve, what effort cannot force, the simple word of faith accomplishes without strain. Faith-filled speech is the channel through which the infinite pours into the finite. It is the command that lifts the veil, revealing the treasures that have always been available but unseen. The difference between idle affirmation and faith-filled decree is the spirit with which it is spoken. To repeat words mechanically is to scatter seeds without soil. They fall away without result. But when the words are wrapped in the fire of faith, they penetrate the unseen, striking the chords of the universe, and the whole creation moves to fulfill them. One word of faith outweighs years of lifeless repetition, for it is not the sound of the words, but the power behind them that creates. The supply unlocked by faith-filled speech appears in many forms. It may come as money, as opportunity, as favor, as ideas, as sudden guidance. Faith does not dictate how the supply will appear, it simply knows that it will appear. The universe is limitless in channels, and faith allows it to choose the perfect one. To insist on how is to narrow the supply, but to speak in faith is to release it fully, trusting the unseen to manifest in the best and most abundant way. The one who speaks with faith lives above appearances. They may see lack in the outer, but they refuse to give it power. Their speech does not echo the outer picture, but declares the unseen truth. They say, "I have abundance," even when the purse is empty. They say, "I walk in wealth," even when the road looks barren. They know that to speak from appearances is to remain bound by them, but to speak in faith is to change them. The outer must eventually conform to the decree, for faith-filled speech carries the authority of law. Faith and speech together are the tools of creation. Speech alone is sound. Faith alone is silent belief. But speech infused with faith is living command, creative power in action. It summons the invisible riches into form. It unlocks the hidden treasures of life. It transforms the unseen potential into visible reality. Those who master faith-filled speech hold the key to infinite supply. For they understand that the universe is voice-activated, responding always to the sound of faith. Faith-filled speech is not bound by time. It does not concern itself with how long the manifestation takes, for it knows the decree has already been answered. Time is but the unfolding of what has already been spoken. Faith does not waver when days or weeks pass. It holds steady, knowing the harvest is inevitable. Doubt digs up the seed, but faith leaves it to grow. The word once spoken in faith is a living thing, working unseen until it emerges into form. The infinite supply of the universe is waiting always, but the key that unlocks it is faith-filled speech. Without the word, the supply remains unclaimed. Without faith, the word remains powerless. But when the two unite, the floodgates of abundance swing open, and life becomes a stream of provision, overflowing with riches, opportunities, and joy. The decree of faith is the command to the universe, and the universe responds with treasures unmeasured, pouring out more than the mind could conceive, all summoned by the simple yet mighty act of speaking in faith.